Welcome to Alignment First, where it's our mission to bring leaders back to their peace, presence, and power. And I'm rocking the mic with Corbin Smith, 30 years in coaching, founder of the MTTS Sports Group, author of It's More Than the Scoreboard, and host of the More Than the Scoreboard podcast. You can just look at your wall and memorabilia behind you, brother, and those are your helmets. You are not only an accomplished coach, but also an accomplished athlete. And we got to share some time on stage at the Faction Foundation Leader Summit a couple of weeks ago. And I loved your presentation because it was so obvious that you're not only a legacy coach, i.e. your father was a coach, but the way you present, it's like, oh yeah, this dude has spent some time in the locker room. And I say that with nothing but admiration and love, man. It was you present the lens of leadership through coaching so well. And I think that's a great place to start. Tell me about the identity transition for you going from athlete to coach.
Well, that first of all, I was 22 years old. I was a graduate assistant coach for 6 months or for one season at the University of Missouri before I got hired full-time as a tackles, tight ends coach and the special teams coordinator. And I was a quarterback in college. So, I had to learn those positions and went around the country. But what was interesting, Mike, is that at that time I was 23. So when I got hired full time, I was 23, and I'm coaching guys in my tight end room. There were about six guys, right? And you have a meeting every day. And in that tight end room, two of those guys, the previous summer before my senior year in college, I went from Iowa City to Columbia, Missouri, which was only about 3 hours, spent, I don't know, about half the summer there and worked construction. And I was working with two of those guys in my tight end room who I was coaching now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. And I was about the same age. And, we'd go out, not when I was coaching, but when I was still playing and drink beers. And there was a place called the Silver Bullet Country Bar where they'd bring in Merle Haggard and all these guys. And we bounced. And then I'm coaching them.
Oh my gosh.
So it was interesting to say the least. I had to, like you said, the transition was a little bit more difficult, and it took me a while to figure it out because those couple of guys that I knew and other guys at different positions, they called me by my first name, and anybody that knew me before I was 30 called me Corby. And then when I got out of coaching and had to do a professional resume, I went back to my original name. But so they would call me Corby. And what happened was these younger kids, these incoming freshmen, and even second-year players thought that they could call me by my first name. Mm-hmm. And so I would get to the point where they would call me by my first name. I would, if I was walking by them in the hall, I would just keep walking. I wouldn't even acknowledge them.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything, but they quickly learned that they needed to call me coach. Mm-hmm. Those guys that called me by my first name respected the position I was in as their position coach and as a full-time coach. And I knew that I knew on the field that if I got on them, they were going to call me coach and listen to what I had to say. So from that standpoint, it was a big transition because I was so young.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and you were a quarterback, right?
I was. Yeah. I started a couple games here and there. I went to SC first, ended up transferring to Iowa, and finished playing there and played for Coach Hayden Fry, who's a great man, great leader. I got a story about him in one of the chapters in my book. But I was a backup. I was super smart. My aptitude, obviously, because my dad was a coach. I'd been around it my whole life. But and I was a good athlete. But I was also backing up a guy by the name of Rob Johnson, who was 6'4", 230 pounds, ran a 4.6 40, and was a coaching family and played in the NFL for 10 or 12 years. And it just, I ended up I'm probably one of the only quarterbacks in history to ever play special teams. I started on special teams because I just wanted to get on the field.
Dude, that is
Yeah.
a different day and age. If you're a
Yeah.
gunslinger, that is like not even in the realm of possibility now.
No, it's funny.
That's
And
crazy.
I'll tell you this real quick, because I do believe that it kind of goes into the whole leadership,
Mhm.
premise is that my second year at SC, I went to the special teams coordinator. His name was Coach April. And I said, Coach April, I said, I want to play on special teams. I just want to, and I was a second string quarterback. And he said, Corby, he said, you need to go talk to Coach Dorr, who was my quarterback's coach. And so I went to Ray Dorr and Coach Dorr, and I said, Coach, I talked to Coach April. He's told me to come talk to you. I want to get on special teams. And he just looked at me and he kind of rolled his eyes and he's like, that's fine, but don't you dare get hurt. And he said, and you need to go talk to the head coach. So the head coach at the time happened to be my dad. So I go walk in my dad's office and I called him Coach. And I said, Coach, I talked to Coach April. I talked to Coach Dorr. They're okay with it, but they told me to come talk to you. I want to play on special teams. Coach April said he could get me starting on all 4 special teams. But I need the okay from you. And he just looked at me and his jaw kind of dropped and he goes, what the hell is wrong with you? I said a lot of things, but I want to get on the field. He's like, just don't get hurt. And so I was on special teams at SC. So that's how I got on the field.
So let me ask you, was there ever an impression of nepotism at SC playing for your dad? Was that a hurdle that you had to overcome amongst your teammates?
It was, but at the same time, I mean, back then it was you got 5 official paid visits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my visits, I'd been offered. So I was a safety, a strong safety in high school as well.
So
and
your mentality now makes sense to me because I've
never
met a quarterback that said I want to play special teams. Okay.
So half my offers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of people laugh.
You make more sense to me now.
Okay. Half my offers were to go play outside backer.
Okay.
So Stanford offered me at outside backer. Those were the days of John Lynch. John Lynch, people don't know, was a quarterback. When he went there, he was a quarterback. They moved him to safety. Mm-hmm. North Carolina offered me as an outside linebacker. So I had multiple other offers. Okay. A lot of teams, like Notre Dame, was recruiting me heavy. They dropped off when they found out who my dad was. So, I mean, I'm playing with guys like Willie McGinnis and Cleveland Coulter and Junior Seau and those guys. And Willie McGinnis was probably the only one that would give me and he was a scary man. Yeah. I don't say that about a lot of people, but it did. I think initially we're kind of like, well, that's kind of a gimme scholarship. But then when I went out and proved myself and beat out 3 other guys to become the backup quarterback, that just went away.
Yeah.
So,
and we're talking about the days of old, if you will. Right. NIL is not a thing. No. So you don't transfer because you're chasing a bag, No. What perpetuated the move to Iowa?
That's easy. My dad got fired. Okay. And he got fired in January, right after the season, my second year. I wanted to stay. I was in a great position. Rob had battled injuries here and there, so I'd go in. I would have started that next year more than half the season because Rob got hurt. And I had some options. I quite honestly, my mental health, when you're sitting in class and there's a person sitting in front of you and on the back of his shirt it says top 10 reasons Larry Smith should be fired and Larry Smith's your dad, you take that personally. And I'm not a fighter. I started finding fights. Yeah. And John Robinson came in and I went and sat down with him and I'm like, Coach, I want to stay, but he's like, I'll help you in any way possible. I get it. I understand. And so I actually had the option to stay, keep my ride. The baseball coach at the time, Mike Gillespie, came to me and said, why don't you come out? I'll honor your scholarship. We need a catcher. And because baseball was kind of my best sport, quite honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
Took some visits again. Hayden Fry called 3 days before I was supposed to take my last visit to Ball State, which I didn't want to go there, but and he called and he's like, I got a scholarship for you. I'm like, sight unseen. I'm like, I'm there.
Dude, that resonates so hard. I got kicked out of the Air Force Academy.
Did you?
And I was sitting on my couch. I went from Nike scholarships and Chipotle burritos in the locker post game, and to borrowing my little brother's car to drop him off at practice so that I could hitch a ride to Dairy Queen and work the fryer. And I'll never forget, that transition. My parents were very welcoming. Hey, look, come home, lick your wounds. We'll get it figured out. And then they ripped the Band-Aid off. They caught me getting comfortable. And my dad was like, if you don't get out of my fucking house, you're not here for a free ride. Figure it out. Just like executed the embodiment of tough love. It's time for you to be a man, And Coach Conley called me from Texas A&M Commerce, now East Texas State. And he was like, hey, Coach Campbell called me from the academy. He said, you were solid dude. I got a position open for you. And my whole thing was, could I play right away? Did they have a degree in health and human performance? And, could I graduate as soon as possible?
Yeah.
And that it checked all the boxes sight unseen. And I went from Colorado Springs to the middle of nowhere, East Texas,
crazy,
to a place that had more cows than people. And I'm from Maryland originally. So I was like, what is going on? So like dude. That, yeah, I get it, dude.
And that's the thing. You ask about transition. I've had so many transitions in my life. It's crazy. I mean, even that transition from Los Angeles, California to Iowa City, Iowa. Okay. First of all, my scholarship check was like almost $1,300 a month
back
right
then.
For living off campus.
Yeah.
At Iowa, I talked to Derek the other day, and I'm like, dude, remember our checks at Iowa? Full scholarship. I'm getting $320 a month. And he's like,
that cost of living adjustment is real, dude.
And then you're almost a celebrity in LA if you play for SC, and you go to Iowa City, and it's like there's like 3 bars and cows and guys are hunting and fishing and chewing tobacco, and it was wild. It was wild. So
that's incredible, dude.
Yeah.
So you get done playing, and was coaching always on the radar for you? You just
always. And that's the other thing. So I coached for 8 years. I coached in Missouri. We got fired. I went to Arkansas State. We got fired. I had 2 young boys. I had my 2 older boys at the time. My ex-wife was she had her law degree. She got that at Missouri when I was coaching there. And I'd always told her, if I have to take a job that requires you to work, because she didn't, at the time she chose, I said, if you want to stay home with the kids, I support you. If you want to go work, I support you. Whatever you want to do. She wanted to stay home and raise the kids. And so I said, if there's ever a time I have to take a job in this industry, in this profession, because people, I mean, you understand it, but a lot of people don't. I mean, you're working, during the season, you're working 7 days a week for 6 months, and you're putting in 120 hours a week. It's nuts. And then you're on the road recruiting, and you get a month off in the summer. So I when we got fired at Arkansas State, I had a job offer from Eastern Michigan, Tulsa, and University of Alabama, Birmingham. And I turned them all 3 down because they were all, she would have had to work.
Yeah.
So that was a transition again, where I got out of college coaching, and I didn't think I was going to be out of it. And then about 6 months later, I interviewed at U of A, thought I had the job, and everybody on staff voted for me. And the head coach had issues with my dad, I found out later, and went with someone else. So that's yeah. And so that transition, because my ex-father-in-law was a head coach of 40 years in the state of Arizona in high school football. And he kept trying to get me to come out, and I'd go out and help the kids for a couple of weeks. And I'm like, I'm not ready for this. I was young. My ego was attached. I didn't know how to bring myself down to the level of a high school kid. So I got into medical device sales for 5 years and was in the operating room, every day, all day long for spine and bio.
Yeah.
A lot of transitions.
You mentioned, for all those staffs that you were a part of, you kept saying we got fired. For everybody who doesn't understand the culture of coaching, what do you mean by we?
So you're tied to the head coach. Every assistant, every staff support is tied to the head coach. So when the head coach gets fired, and the new coach comes in, most of the time they'll retain maybe one coach, maybe two coaches. They'll keep the athletic trainer most times. They'll keep the equipment manager, the head equipment manager. But again, what you're in and developing athletes and strength and conditioning. I mean, a lot of times they get rid of those guys. And so when I say we, the head coach got fired, the rest of us got fired. I think there was one guy on that Missouri staff that got retained.
And how do you continue to what's the decision matrix when you're trying to decide what the next best opportunity is for Corby, in that I can continue to ride the coattails of whoever, or I can go fish in unfamiliar waters. Like how do you maintain a relationship? Because the buzzword in the coaching world is loyalty, right?
Right.
And
we used to be.
Yeah.
Not anymore. It used to be.
And you're like weighing the options of like what's best for me and my family, and then like the head coach, as I'm reading the tea leaves from what you're saying, it's like is kind of responsible for my livelihood.
Right.
So how do you shop yourself, position yourself as best as possible, and maintain that relationship and not burn that bridge at the same time?
Well, I think back then it was if you had the opportunity to go somewhere and make more money, the head coach would understand if it was a good program. If you had an opportunity to go, like I was a quarterback, I wanted to be a coordinator, then a college head coach. So being a tight end special teams coordinator, great. But I did, and that's another story. I did have a couple opportunities to go to a couple other programs when I was at Missouri and be the quarterback coach. But the programs were what are now non-Power 4 conference programs, and making a little bit less. And so it just wasn't the right move for me. So back then it had to do with that. It had to do with money. You could go, from making the same amount to making the same amount from a Missouri to a Alabama. Like you're going to do that, right? Because it's a step up.
Right.
And head coaches, I mean, I was fortunate to be around some head coaches that understood that and wanted you to advance your career.
Right.
Nowadays, there is no loyalty. Back then, I was on a year contract. So both places, when we got fired, I still got paid, unless I took another job, and then I gave up that money. But now these guys are on 2-year and 3-year contracts. And college coaches, I mean, I gotta be honest. It pissed me off when everybody was all over Lane Kiffin about jumping. Leave the guy alone, dude. There's no loyalty. There's no loyalty amongst coaches. And Nick Saban said it perfectly. He said it's a system. And it goes back to the NCAA, which I'm not going to go off on a tangent about that. So loyalty is basically, nowadays it has to do with the program, their NIL money that they have. And then are you advancing your career from a position standpoint? Are you going to be able to go from, because there's nothing wrong with, look what Kirk Cignetti did. He was a position coach at Alabama, and he went and took a Division II head job because he wanted to be a head coach. Right. Look at him now. So
I got
the loyalty thing's gone, man.
Yeah, man. I got a buddy of mine, Randy Starks. He got 10 years in the league. We were teammates in high school, and he was all pro a couple of times. Had a really awesome career over the course of a decade, and to the point where he could have easily segued out of the league into a high profile gig.
Right.
And dude, he chose otherwise. He went and kind of waited till that itch needed to be scratched
Right.
before he came back to the game. And then, dude, he was at a private school in England, an NAIA program, then a D2, and he just got on with the University of South Florida.
Good.
And
Good for him.
It was interesting because, I had him on the podcast as he was moving through that transition and climbing the ladder. And I was like, why would you do that? He's like, because I wanted to prove that I could do it, as opposed to rest on my laurels and let my reputation carry me into a place where I may not have necessarily been prepared to do well, and I think he's an example of, and I keep looking down because I have your leadership pyramid, the leader blueprint.
Leader blueprint.
Yeah. I want to reference it accurately. But I think he's a great example of this blueprint, the base of which being self leader, then peer leader, group leader, area leader, and then organization leader. And the way you spoke to this at the Faction Foundation was so impressive. I'd love if you would just grant the audience that wisdom and walk us up that pyramid.
So it's a 5-level pyramid, right? The base level is self-leadership. And well, this gets into so much. I think as leaders, first of all, nobody that's really a true leader, someone in a position of leadership and does a good job at it, none of those people will walk around saying, I'm the leader, or it's great to be a leader, because it's not. When you're a true leader, it's lonely, and it comes with an abundance of failure.
Yeah.
And it always starts with self-leadership. And I'm glad you asked, because I do want to say that so the bottom and most important that can never waver, and I say never waver, but it always does, is self-leadership. I can't tell people how much I've failed as a leader for myself in 53 years. I've always recognized and I've accepted the fact that people look to me to encourage them, to help them, to serve them, to make them better. And I have failed myself as a leader more times than I can count. And it's embarrassing.
Yeah. What do you mean by failed yourself?
Well, I think when you're a leader and you're in that position and you accept it, because you have to accept the fact that you are a leader. It's not something people that go out and say, I want to be a leader and try and be a leader. And this from the military, from playing football, from your business, everything. Those are the guys that are fake leaders and nobody listens to, because they're trying to be leaders. In every role I've been in, as a quarterback in high school, in college, as a college football coach, in my personal life, as a head high school coach, there have been times where I have not lived up to my standards. The last coaching, I was just putting some stuff together, a reel together for my website last week. And I downloaded, I was mic'd up on the sidelines. And I looked at that, and it was my last year of coaching high school football. And the school I'd been at was a brand new school. We had started it from scratch. We were in our second year. We were playing with 90% sophomores. We were playing a varsity schedule. Ooh. We were playing 3A football in Arizona, which 6A is the highest. The 3A referees are just awful. They didn't like us because we were new and rich kids. I don't want to say rich kids, but better kids. We had the nice uniforms and all that kind of stuff. And I look back at that mic'd up, and I was like, I was my mental health wasn't good. Like we were 0-10. I was trying to build these kids up from being, playing varsity football that shouldn't have been. And I didn't feel like I was serving anymore. We had a couple of parents that were high impact parents, and we're trying to control, their kids playing. And then when they didn't, we had we had coaches that weren't loyal. We had, but I wasn't good. When I really look at it, like my standards had just gone by the wayside, quite honestly. And not that I was living, a bad life, but I wasn't being the person that I needed to be.
Right.
And after that season, I stopped chewing, I stopped drinking. I got back to me and got out of it and transitioned to this. But so going back to it, being a self-leader, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
But the question is like anything else. What do you do when you fail? Are you going to feel sorry for yourself? Are you going to worry about how others see you? Or are you going to pick yourself back up and build it back up? Right. And so people need to understand you start with self-leading and it's a constant battle, right?
Yeah.
The next level is so as I go up the tiers of this leader blueprint, everybody out there, remember, it all starts with self-leader. If you're not leading yourself, all the other people that you're leading is going to fall off.
It reminds me, and I've experienced this in business too. So I'll give you two examples. I'll never forget. I was an effort guy. All of my size, speed, and strength was like, I can't afford to miss a workout. Okay. If I miss a meal, I'm losing 10 pounds. You know what I mean? Yeah. I was that guy. And I'll never forget spring ball at the academy. This actually just came up in some deep work that I was doing this past week. I haven't thought about this dude in 20 years. Chris Sutton, great guy, ended up flying in the Air Force, got a beautiful family, done incredible things, solid human being. I'll never forget, we were moving from one drill to the next. And I was an effort guy. Like I got to college, and our first workout, I walked in that weight room and I saw dudes all the way down there at the dusty end of the dumbbells, like, and heaving them. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. So we're going to work really hard. We're going to play our ass off, but I need to make sure I get this degree. The pros were just not in the cards for me.
Right. Me neither.
And so we're moving from drill to drill, and he's like, hey dude, chill out. You're making us look bad. And he's a considerably better athlete than I am. Like objectively better. Okay. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I almost listened to him, Yeah. And it really speaks to the foundation of this leadership blueprint, right, in that when those moments happen, you get to make a decision.
Absolutely.
You can do what you know is right and within your integrity, which I think is really what we're talking about here in self-leadership.
Absolutely.
Or you could concede, be a people pleaser or something in that regard. And that's how you make it. That's how you get kicked off the fucking team. That's how you lose your spot. That's how you lose opportunity, is you acquiesce to people that want you to not show up at your fullest expression. Right. And in business, same shit. I will never forget. I had a staff member that I allowed her some influence because she had a lot more corporate experience compared to my Marine Corps experience. And when you're talking about entrepreneurship, they're just like things, P&Ls and marketing and stuff like that. Right. Dude, I came out of the Marines, and all I knew how to do really, really well was help people sweat and smile. And that was the business model. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I leaned on her and gave her a lot of sway because she had what I thought was that more experience than I had. And I'll never forget, guiding the ship, driving this vision, and making the statement that we're going to position ourselves so that we cater very specifically to a higher socioeconomic category for clientele. And the negativity that came out of her mouth, the dismissal of that idea, that narrative, and how we should play to the field and the race to the bottom, again, almost listen to that shit. So that that self-leadership is so important,
right.
because it really cuts to integrity and your North Star, and operating from a place of truth and what you know to be true within you. And so I wanted to share that, as for anybody that's listening, it's like, well, what exactly does self-leadership look like? And those are two shining examples from my experience.
It is. Those are great examples. And I think we've all been in that situation as leaders that self-lead. And here's something I want everybody to think about. The one thing that all great self-leaders share and have not perfected, because we don't perfect anything, but are always aware of, self-leaders are have great critical thinking skills. Great critical thinking skills. And going to your last example, that's a great lead into the next ring, or the next step on the pyramid, which is peer leadership.
Yeah.
Your example is, and we learn from that, right? If we're self-leading, we learn from that, because the way that she led you, she was peer leader. You gave her that authority. You gave her that gift of saying, I'm leaning on you, show me the way. And she didn't show you the way.
Right.
If she made it about her. So the second step is peer leadership, taking someone and being a leader and showing that person how to set the standards for yourself to be a great self-leader. That's peer leadership.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna pause you real quick, because I wanna ask a question, because I feel like this is also indicative of people that self-lead well, and that's the constant battle with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I heard it said somewhere in my social media algorithm that your imposter syndrome has less to do with not knowing what the fuck you're doing, and more to do with the fact that you're teeter-tottering on whether or not that fine line between maintaining your integrity and stepping into uncharted territory.
Right.
What do you hear with regards to self-leadership and imposter syndrome / integrity?
So I'll say this. I think that message gets convoluted between self-leadership and imposter syndrome. Very, very easy, but it's very easily handled. Again, the critical thinking skills of that most successful self-leaders have perfected is the fact that they understand their weaknesses as a leader too. They understand, if someone comes to me and says, hey, I'm starting this business, tell me this, that, and that, I'm not going to tell you that. It's like when I wrote my book. And I woke up one morning, I've been wanting to write a book for 18 years, and it was going to be about my dad's legacy. And then I throw in the podcast, and I woke up one morning and I'm like, at 3 a.m, I'm like, this is it. I woke up at 4:30 and I got to work, and it was done in 6 months, 250 pages. And I tell my publisher this, who's an ex-coach, ex-administrator, ex-superintendent. And I'm like, Darren, I said, I don't know what I don't know, man. Like, I'm not going to tell you things about my book that I want done, because I don't know how it works. That's your expertise. So being a self-leader also means being aware, in order to stay away from the imposter syndrome, being aware of not only what you possess that other people are attracted to, but also the qualities that you're working on every day to better. And you can't give that information away if you're unsure, or if you're continuously working to get it to the standard that you want it to be at to share. So it's, again, imposter syndrome. I associate it, when it comes to self-leadership, as, kind of what we're talking about on the Faction Foundation this week. Is it real or not? Like, are you being real about things, or are you, are you not? Is it, and so the weak self-leaders that think they're leaders are going to have imposter syndrome.
Okay.
The ones that are that have mastered self-leadership and work on it daily are going to be able to lead others because they lead in a way that is comfortable to them.
And so what you're saying is, if I doubt myself because I've never spoken in front of a room of 1,000 people before,
Right.
those nerves are not indicative of not knowing my stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I first time I ever got up in front of people and spoke, like real people, I was at the AFCA Coaches Clinic, which is every year. There's about 7,000 coaches. AFCA is American Football Coaches Association. 7,000 coaches, all level. I'm 24 years old at this time. We were number one in the country in rushing offense in Missouri that year. And so our offensive staff got up, and I was going to talk about our play action pass game.
Mm-hmm.
So I get up there, and there's 2,000 or 3,000 people there. Thank God that they had the lights on me because I couldn't see everybody. And for the first 5 minutes of that talk, which lasted about 30 minutes, I was uncomfortable as I could be. My voice was shaking. I knew people could hear it, and it bothered me even more. And then something happened, and it just went away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never happened to me since.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't get in front, talking in front of other people. I mean, that's a learned and it's an acquired ability, right?
Yep.
You've been in front of enough people, and some people don't. I hate being in front of. I mean, when the cameras would come after games and want to interview the head coach, I'm like, go interview like the running back, not me.
Right.
Go interview the defensive coordinator, not me.
Yeah.
So,
man.
But
so that what comes after self-leadership? Peer leadership?
The peer leadership and kind of what you were talking about. Peer leadership is as simple as, and a great example of this. I just read this yesterday. Sam Darnold, who's the coach of the Seahawks, probably going to win the Super Bowl. I hope the Patriots do, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I really like him, right? So he's at SC. He goes to SC. The other quarterback he was competing with started the first 3 games of the year, and then they made a move, and Sam Darnold came in and started and never relinquished it. Well, they hung around the same friend group, and this kid that got beat out talks about how much he respects Sam Darnold because they were at a party, and Sam put his arm around him and he said, "Hey, listen," he said, I want you to know I really appreciate how you handle this. It can't be easy. You did a hell of a job. I think you got screwed. I think you should have, and the kid says, I'll never forget that because that epitomizes Sam Darnold's leadership skills. And so peer leadership is taking your own kid under your wing and showing them, teaching them about how to self-lead. And that's all peer leadership is, taking a coach that's green under your wing and him having the aspirations to become a head coach, and you share everything with him and prepare him and are there when he has the silliest questions.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Well, what do they say? The best leaders make more leaders.
Yes.
Not more followers.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And then after peer leader, we have group leader.
Right.
What's the group leader doing that's different than peer leadership?
Best example of that is in business. If you're, let's say you're in marketing and you have your own marketing team, that's really, you're in a group leadership position where you're managing more than one and less than 20. You're in charge because of your skills and your capabilities and people look to you, and you have the knowledge to lead a group of others. Yeah.
Okay.
In football, very simple. That would be a position coach.
Got it.
You just have, like, for me, it was just tight ends. Right? So I'd be a group leader in that scenario.
Okay. And then you have your area leader. What are they doing?
Area leader is a person that assigns other leaders to lead a group.
Okay.
So again, in business, vice president would be an area leader. CFO could be an area leader.
Yep.
But they're responsible for really determining who they think could lead groups of people and be successful and really teach them.
These
and
would be
again, this would be your coordinator, offense or
Yep.
defensive coordinator in football, right?
Got it. Okay.
And then the last one is the organizational leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's easy. That's your head coach. That's your CEO. That's your president.
Mm-hmm.
That's your business owner. Anybody that when the buck stops, it stops with them.
Got it.
Right. Now here's the tricky thing. So like, let's take athletics since we're working in this. So if I'm the head coach, I'm the organizational leader of the football program.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? I have an organizational leader ahead on top of me. So now because that organizational leader on top of me is the athletic director. He or she has an organizational leader, which is the principal. Mm-hmm. And then the principal has an organizational leader, which is the superintendent.
Right.
So it's just that trickle down. So you can be, as the pyramid goes up, you can be an organizational leader, but depending on what you're looking at, your perspective, you could also be a group leader.
Right. Right.
Or an area leader.
It's an interesting perspective in that when you're working, how often do you create that zoom in, zoom out, real-time shift of perspective to empower and help people lead more effectively?
I think constantly.
Yeah.
I think that zooming in and zooming out has to be present at all times. Mm-hmm. I get, I don't want to say it's hard for me to understand. Everybody says, well, if you don't want to work for someone else, own your own business. Mm-hmm. You're still working for somebody else. Mm-hmm. Just because it's your business doesn't mean you don't have taxes to pay, or you don't have board members to answer to, or you don't have clients to answer to. Mm-hmm. You may be at the top tier of that organizational leadership, but there's always it's like there's always someone bigger, faster, and stronger.
Yeah,
smarter, better looking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
there's always somebody to answer to.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
So I think from that perspective, that's what I'm saying. You constantly have to be zooming in and out.
Yeah.
If you want to continuously, successfully self-lead.
Yeah. So coach to coach, apples to oranges. If you take the wins away, what is it that makes the Sabans and the 2025 season taken into consideration, the Signettis of the world, what makes them such impactful organizational leaders?
Because they empower others. They empower those around them to want to be successful. They hold them accountable, right? They educate them if someone in that organization is not holding the standards to the level that the head coach, the Nick Saban or the Curt Cignetti or whoever holds those standards to. Your job as a leader is not to just rip ass, is not to just fire them or get on them or humiliate them. Your job is to educate them, right?
Yep.
So just like in MTTS Sports Group, everything we do, it's education, it's leadership, and then it's preparation. And so you have to be able to empower others. And when you empower others, what comes with that is transparency and honesty. And that's the thing. Like if you look at Saban, my mom doesn't like him. She's a coach's wife. I always ask her why, and she can't give me an answer. And Signetti's the same way. It's like the guys are like brutally honest, and people don't like that because it holds others accountable when you're transparent and honest. So, you do have to have, I don't know if compassion is the right word. Empathy is the right word, but empathy in terms of putting yourself in someone else's situation and understanding it through the lens that they're looking through.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll tell you because I literally, I'm so happy you said this, the brutal honesty piece, because I was just in a conversation with someone last week And I asked them very directly, I was like, how come when I'm direct with you, you become triggered? Right. And as we moved through this courageous conversation and we were like really sorting it out, because what I was hearing in feedback was that they wanted me to be nicer.
Right.
Right. And that's where I was experiencing friction. And that's why it's really important that you stand in the fire with somebody as a leader and get to the root, because even though you and I are both speaking English, it is not unusual for us to sound like we're speaking different languages. Right. And what they were really asking for was tact. I don't mind you holding me accountable. I don't mind you being direct with me, but you come across like a fucking asshole sometimes. And I would appreciate it if you came at me with some tact.
More tact, right.
And present it as if you've given this feedback some forethought, as opposed to something that's like off the top of your head reactionary.
Right.
And that was great. That was great feedback for me. Right. And I appreciated it so much, because now, like, they're not crying mad and I'm not pissed off and quiet. You know, now I understand how I need to deliver a message directly to get the response that I'm looking for. And that's not to say I want them to be agreeable, but message intended is message received.
Right.
To me, that's tact.
Right. You're 100% right. At the same time, one of the beautiful things about being a coach and being young and having 6-8 guys in my room and, getting on the board and explaining, how we're scheming this play, what our blocking rules, what our assignments are versus this front versus that front, if the safety drops down, whatever, is I would always look back and you got half the guys in the room being like, yeah, okay. And the other half like, huh? So I think you learn as a leader how to, you have to read the room, right? And so you approaching that individual with more tact, if you want to make an impact with them and help them, that's the way you need to approach it. Mm-hmm. My son went through BUDS. My youngest son went through BUDS. He's now a Navy diver on his second deployment in Bahrain. Mm-hmm. You think I talked to that kid with any tact at all? No. All 3 of my boys are adults. Mm-hmm. I have to speak to them differently because if I don't, and I talk to all of them like an asshole, like we are very easily, it's in line with our nature.
Sure.
Then I'm not going to get the response, or I'm not going to have an impact on my other 2 kids. It's not the same.
Right.
So, I mean, your Marine Corps buddies, like, my football buddies. Yeah. I talk to them differently than I talk to, my mom or my sister or my boys or my ex-wife or my girlfriend or anybody else.
That's what my old man always said. And I didn't get it until I had kids. And I wish I got it when I was coaching one-to-many in football. He's like, I raised you all the same, but I treat you all differently.
Absolutely. That's great.
And I did not understand that wisdom until I had kids of my own. I'm like, oh shit, the standard is the same. However, how I communicate said standard. And it's even more challenging for me because I got to switch gears, boy, girl.
Oh, I don't have to do that. I don't have to worry about that.
I don't care what anybody says. It's different. No. And personality aside, I mean, just the energy of communication is so different. And it's one of those things. Chris Williamson on Modern Wisdom, he talks about this concept of the unteachable lessons,
Ooh.
And I put that in that category. Like, you won't get it until you're in it. Yeah. And you can, and when you're not in it, you can resist it. You can rationalize it. You can talk your way around it. And then when it's staring you in the face, it's like, oh, right. now I get it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like so much of leadership is 100% an unteachable lesson, because I know for sure your dad, being the great coach that he was and the father that he was, there are things that it's impossible to get until you're standing in front of that team, you're raising your 3 boys, and you're like, oh shit, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody tells all of us, anybody that's listening, you, myself, that have kids, right? Before you have kids, when your wife's pregnant or you're pregnant, and what does everybody say? Man, this is going to change your life, blah, 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 blah. I got to the point where I was like, dude, shut up. Like, you can't prepare me for what I don't know, right? And then it's kind of cool because as they grow up and they're in the house, your friends or family will be like, well, this is going to happen the next stage, terrible twos and all that kind of stuff. Terrible twos last from 1 to 3. So it's not really 2. It's, and so they tell you, and I know my girlfriend, her son is a senior in high school. Mm-hmm. And so she's leaned on me, and I'm like, I can tell you, but honey, like that was me raising my boys. Yep. This is you raising your son. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I can be, he's got a great dad that went to the Air Force Academy that got kicked out too. Right. Played football there, but he's got a great dad that's super involved and a man of faith and just a really great man. And so it's like, I can tell you guys, and Vince and I have talks all the time about it. Being a head coach, becoming a head coach. I mean, I was around head coaches my whole life, but guess what? To your father's point, no one prepared me for that. Just because, right. And then the one thing, and people that are listening that have grown kids, no one ever said to me in the first 18 years of my oldest son's life, wait till they get out on their own, because as a parent, that is almost more difficult than them being at home. And I don't know how to navigate having 3 boys that are adults. And you remember being their age, 27, 25, and 22. It's like you have to make your own mistakes, and you have to allow them to. And you're there. I mean, as parents, we're there to teach, guide, and protect. We can still do all that, but when asked, or when we see them putting themselves in a situation that could potentially be disastrous, right? Right. So. Leaders. Yeah.
Got to keep them from making that permanent mistake.
Yes.
But you can't, I have it on good authority that it's not good to save them from making mistakes at all.
No. But again, it's damn, is it hard.
Dude, thank you, man. It is, my wife and I talk about it all the time, because one of us is pumping the brakes on the other every once in a while. And it's like, oh no, just watch. That's going to sting. Here we go. Like,
and you know what? What's great? The divorced parents out there, and we talked about this at that leadership summit, is that just because you're divorced doesn't mean that you're not the leader of your house. You have to show your children through how you teach your ex, whether they want to be treated nice or not. You still handle it with class, because you're the leader of the household. Right. So, like my ex-wife and I, the first couple of years were rough, obviously, and we were married for 13, 14 years. And it's been 17 years since that happened. But, we still talk. We still get along. We co-parented. My ex-wife and my girlfriend, we have a, text thread going, and they get along great. And, but we still do the same thing. It's like, she'll call me and it's be like, hey, just let it settle. Or I'll call her and she'll be like, I get it. Just back off, sit with it for 24, 48 hours. But it's hard because you don't know. We've never done it before.
Right.
So, yeah.
But, I think this leadership blueprint really gives you something to fall back on, and really peeling it all the way back to self-leadership, not determining what you don't know. Part of self-leadership is being willing to ask for help, to
Absolutely.
take ownership of your situation and figure it out for yourself. Like, all of those components come back to what I love about the base of that pyramid and self-leadership is where we have habituated from a societal standpoint the blame game and externalization of circumstance. It's like, no, wait. If I'm truly standing in self-leadership, my first priority is to look inward.
Right.
And that, dude, in your presentation, that's the number one takeaway. And it's not so much imposing so much self-responsibility and making everything your fault. That's not self-leadership either.
No.
But it is contextualizing the nuance of the situation and isolating the variables that are within your control, and then moving from there.
Acknowledgement, right? Being accountable, owning. You said it, ownership. That's a huge one. Mm-hmm. Every single time I have messed up, whether, the circumstances of my divorce, a lot of people could look at it and say, oh, you weren't at fault. Bullshit. Mm-hmm. I was 50% to blame, and I'll own that, because I was 50% of the relationship. I could have been better. I could have done things differently. Mm-hmm. And so ownership is key. And the other thing, and you said it, like, to own your self-leadership also takes into account that you have to know the greatest leaders in this world throughout history are probably the greatest followers when need be. Right? I mean, you have to decipher who you need to follow and when you need to do so. Mm-hmm. You don't always have to stand at the top of the mountain. That goes back to asking for help. Mm-hmm. So, and that's a hard one for a lot of people to understand. It's like, okay, I'm a leader. I'm a leader of this. I'm a leader of that. But like we talked about, leadership isn't, it's not status. It's not titles. It's not position. It's something that's within you, and it's a service. Yeah. When you lead, you're serving others. Mm-hmm. But you got to serve yourself first.
Yeah. And I want to end on this question, and shout out to Derek Price for putting us together and at the that leadership summit through the Faction Foundation. At this stage of the game, for as much as you've accomplished and all the things that you're building with MTTS Sports Group and launching the book and the podcast, what are the characteristics of the individuals you look to for mentorship now?
I think everything we've talked about. I mean, I think someone that is transparent. Transparency and honesty is critical for me. Mm-hmm. The people that I have in my life that I lean on will tell me tact or no tact, what they see, what they feel, what they think. Now, here's the difference. I learned a long time ago that I will listen to what everybody says, and our climate nowadays, nobody listens to anybody else. They pick their sides and they go with it. But let me ask you this. As a self-leader, if you aren't open to what others have to say, and you're going to pick and choose what you're going to listen to, are you really self-leading? Like, I want the good with the bad. I want the bad with the good. Give it to me all. Because here's the thing. MTTS Sports Group, I created. If there's insight that the people that I look to as mentors and leaders have to say that I don't agree with, then I won't use it. But worst case scenario, here's what happens. They say something, I don't agree with it, but it gets me thinking. Am I doing it the right way? Are my actions, I had a dad rip off a 1.5-page email after my first season talking about leadership. and this, that, and the other. And it pissed me off. And my principal came to me and I'm like, he's got all this money, blah, blah, blah. And over Christmas, I started thinking about it. And I'm like, about 10% of what he said was true. And guess what I did? I took that 10% and I incorporated it in order to be better. So mentors, the people that I respect, as individuals, you, Derek, and we're just kind of starting this friendship, and what I've known about you. And it's funny because when you got up and you talk about leading with aura, and that's why I said what I said. I know I went after you, but the message was the same. It was just presented differently. Yeah. But it was the same, man. And so you got to be open and willing to hear other people's and listen to other people. Take what you're going to use and use it. And what you don't think you want to use, don't use it. Right. Don't take it personally. Grow. Yeah. That's growth.
Dude, I love you, man. I'm so happy that we're running in circles now. For everybody listening, where can they find everything that you're up to? Where's your podcast? What's the mission of MTTS Sports Group? Give them all the details, man.
So MTTS Sports Group is More Than the Scoreboard. But I just condensed it just for simplicity purposes. More Than the Scoreboard podcast. It's on YouTube. It's on all the audio podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, whatever. It's on all of them. I think I'm about to do our 70th episode tomorrow. We just started that last March. Let's go. It's coaches and leaders, and Mike, you'll be on there. I think Wednesday. Yeah. So you'll be the 70th episode.
Sweet.
It's kind of cool. Yeah. So go to YouTube, More Than the Scoreboard. The book is in editing right now. It's about 250 pages. It's truly a blueprint. It follows kind of the same format. Every chapter, there's 16 chapters. The last chapter is my dad's coaching manual that I kind of revamped and for high school. And it's great. But here's the thing with it. So the title of the book is More Than the Scoreboard, Strong Cultures, True Leadership, and Unbreakable Teams. But the reality of the situation, Coach Mac Brown wrote the foreword, who's a Hall of Fame college football coach. And like he says in it, this book is a blueprint on how to lead yourself, your family, an organization, another person, a football team. It's just not about sports. And so it probably won't be published for 6-8 months. Okay. Road to Awesome is publishing it, and they're a smaller publisher, but deal in the genre that I'm doing. And yeah, man, our mission for MTS Sports Group, we have a couple phase rollout. The first phase is athlete mentorship, so not recruiting service, but educating parents and families and kids on the process. Bunch of different programs you can pick from. And so our mission there is education, leadership, and preparation. So it's pretty simple. Speaking engagements, staff seminars and stuff. So,
well, let us know how next level. We're going to collaborate next level and more Than the Scoreboard for sure. For everybody listening, go out.
I'd love
check out everything that Corby's got going on. And I'm honored to call you friend, man, because if you want to be the fittest leader possible, remember, it comes down to integrity, courage, and ownership. But more than anything else, it's alignment first. See you next time.